children being teachers and what can we learn from them? I'd like to share a little bit about my experience working with children as a teacher and a facilitator, and how in return they have become my teachers and taught me so much about myself and life. I've spent the last 12 years working as a children's facilitator in both an educational setting and in an artistic setting. I teach circus and flow arts, acrobatics, movement and drama, and social and emotional learning. And I'd like to share what I have learned from the children in my years of teaching them. I'm Shaheen. I believe we all learn through experience, both our own and the collective experience of others, and we all have something valuable to offer and share so we can learn and grow. I'm not a guru, I'm not a coach, I'm not an expert. I'm not here to give advice, nor am I claiming any truth. I'm just here sharing my experience, my wins, my failures, my highs and lows, and the lessons that I've learned from those experiences. So if anything resonates with you, take it. If not, let it go. In my experience, this really brought awareness to me. There's a book called The Celestine Prophecies by James Redfield, and it talks about the, energy dynamic or ego dynamic between a child and a grown-up. And there's this imaginary hierarchy that exists where a grown-up will think that they are above a child and not see a kid as equal. And when I say equal, I don't mean equal as in knowledge and experience. Of course, as a grown-up, we have more knowledge and we have more experience, but not seeing the kid as an equal being with a voice, where the child has also something to offer, something very authentic and very raw. And often a grown-up will be dismissive of a child, dismissive of curiosity. An example would be, don't ask silly questions, or dismissing a child's curiosity for seeking truth or knowledge and just saying things like, because I say so. And when we open ourselves to really actively listening to what a child has to offer, there's an innocence and rawness in a child's perspective that I think as a grown-up we can learn, and I personally have learned so much. Some of those things are the curiosity and the way in which a child looks at the world. I have this analogy that a child is like a blank canvas, and over years, layers and layers gets painted on, and the paint is the conditioning, whether it be educational, societal conditioning, value and morality, it's all painted. A kid is this open blank canvas that is learning and applying all these layers. But when asked questions and listening to a kid actively, their fresh, unconditioned opinion is often really, really beautiful. And I found it's an example of how to look at the world, through curiosity, try things without judgment, without the fear of failure. These are things that kids have modeled to me. Now when I have conversation with kids, is really seeing kids as an equal. And not as an equal as in they have the exact same knowledge, but how do I guide children in the work that I do as a role model to be the best version of what I can be, and at the same time, be open to letting the kids guide me with their knowledge, with their curiosity and the open spirits, to lead me into areas that I wouldn't necessarily go to, or that I have stopped allowing myself to go. I'd like to share a real life example where one of my students taught me something. I was working at a school as a drama facilitator. One of my students came up to me, Shaheen, I really need your help with something. And she expressed to me that she needs to tell her best friend something, but she was afraid of the reaction that her best friend was going to have. So I asked her why, and she said what she wants to share with her best friend might hurt her. Can I tell you and you tell her? And I was like, what is it? And what she wanted to share with me, her and her best friend were about to be partners in a school, a craft market. And what she wanted to share, she didn't want her best friend to be her partner. And she was scared that that was going to hurt her best friend's feelings. And I asked her, why don't you want her to join you? She said it's because she's been spending a lot of time with a friend lately and she just wants to do it with someone else. The first thing I had awareness is wow, This was really vulnerable information that my student trusted me with. I take that really responsible, and I feel honored that she trusted me with such sensitive information. And the lesson was that this little 8-year-old had the awareness to seek help. And that was a lesson in courage, asking for help. Instead of just going to her friend, she came to me, and she was vulnerable and courageous enough to ask for help with something that she was struggling with. And what she wanted was completely fair and valid. She was okay to feel that, you know what, this is my best friend, but I also would like some space. So the first thing I did was I acknowledged her, I told her I heard her, and I validated her feelings, that it was totally okay to feel that you also need your own space. Also was really honest that this is really vulnerable information. There is a high chance that your friend is going to be hurt by this, but you are allowed to feel what you feel. And I said that you have to tell her. I can be there with you, but you have to tell her. So I facilitated basically a non-violent communication sharing circle, and I went into a private space. I called in the best friend and I said, hey, X wants to share something with you. It's really sensitive information, and I checked with her, are you okay to hear it? And the friend said yes, and she shared the information. I sat there and I observed. I could immediately see the best friend filled up with emotions. As their teacher and facilitator, I acknowledged the best friend's feelings and I said, thank you for listening and receiving your friend so openly. I understand how this is hard for you. You are allowed to feel sad. And in this moment, the best friend burst into tears. And I just sat there, allowed her to feel those feelings, and really acknowledging her, letting her know that it is okay to be sad, but also letting her know that her friend is allowed to have these feelings, and making her understand that, do you want to always be with all your friends all the time? And giving her that perspective and compassion. Her friend really wants her space, but it's not out of anger. It's a really big concept for an 8 and a 9-year-old to really sit in a space where she sat, she was sad that her friend told her this, but at the same time to understand and have compassion, number one, for herself and her own feelings, but also to accept her friend's choice. And the lesson for me was from the kid receiving the information, you can have understanding and perspective, but you can also have your own feelings and your own hurt. And it's okay to exist with both those feelings at the same time. That you're allowed to be hurt and upset, but also have compassion and understanding. And the one doesn't exist without the other. And here I am sitting with two 8-year-olds. Number one, the lesson is, wow, emotional regulation, asking for help, compassion and sensitivity, and having the courage and the boundary to express yourself and to do it in such a beautiful way. And maybe in a different time it would be a little bit catty, but in that particular moment, I was so moved by these 8-year-olds modeling how I would want to communicate boundaries, how I would want to communicate my feelings. And in this moment, or in that particular moment, when my student reached out to me to help her communicate these big feelings, she was teaching and modeling how I want to communicate in my life. In an anthropological study, the kids play a really important role in the ecosystem of a village. We have our elders guiding us with the knowledge and carrying the wisdom. We have, let's just say, the grown-ups in the middle stepping into adulthood, stepping into leaders. And then we have our kids bringing in that fresh energy so that we could pass on the knowledge, but also injecting that fresh energy into the grown-ups and into the elders to keep that cycle of energy fresh, playful, and inspiring. So lessons that I have taken from the children is to explore life with curiosity, to look at challenges and tasks with confidence, and not having that fear to fail. And when we do fail, get up and try again. And also the authenticity of boundaries that kids express when they want something or when they don't want to. Kids are really confident in their boundaries of, I don't want that, or yes, I want to do that. And that eagerness and that authenticity of their yes and their no, has been such a good example and really big teacher for me to apply to myself. The playfulness to which kids approach life has been a reminder for me to not always be so serious, to take on challenges with a little bit more playfulness and laughter, to be vulnerable, to wear your heart on your sleeve and to express your emotions and your vulnerability with courage. That is another beautiful lesson that the children has taught me. As a takeaway, I'd love you to reflect on the fact that when we see kids, yes, we are older and we have more experience and knowledge in life, but that does not make us higher or above children. Children are pure beings that have a voice, that have feelings, that have emotions. And often, if we allow ourselves to really listen openly and actively, the children have so much to teach us. So open yourselves and continue to let the kids inspire you.